What happens if we go into a full-scale trade war?
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it and sell it back here. I want Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. It's just not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough. 400% tariffs tomorrow morning. He'll tell you why. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. If we wipe out any business there, because we are still 39% of all consumables on Earth and 25% of the world's GDP, America is the #1 economy on Earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now. 400% tomorrow morning, Xi's on an airplane to Washington to cut a deal. Moving manufacturing back to the U.S. takes a long time, but I'm still focused on two aspects. I mean, you have to differentiate the tariffs negotiated between countries, because the Eurozone just 48 hours ago said something remarkable. For the first time in decades, we're willing to go to zero on zero. That means they open up all markets to all products, all services. That's a huge win. So forget about Israel or Thailand or Cambodia. We're talking about one of the largest economies on earth saying, okay, we get the joke. You want to sell cars? You want to sell a Corvette in Berlin? We're okay at zero. We've never had that before. So let's call that a huge win. We haven't done the deal yet, but let's get the German people over here to start negotiating that. Agriculture in Britain will go to zero on zero. Canada, we'll love to do energy zero on zero. So that's a huge win for him, huge. Well, I'm trying to differentiate between the trade non-parity. For example, you talk about Thailand. I have a company that makes greeting cards. Hewlett-Packard laser cutters making greeting cards in Thailand because labor is cheap, and we FedEx them every day here. They only have an economy of 35 billion, and the deficit is 200 billion. That country will never have trade parity with us. It's too small. But we can go to zero tariffs with them. And I'm telling you, there's a difference between getting everybody at zero on zero, which is free trade basically, which for Trump would be a huge win. That call 48 hours ago, when the Eurozone said, okay, uncle, we'll go to zero, take that win. It's a huge win. Now, getting trade deficits settled, that's going to take decades, because we are the largest economy on earth by a factor of 2.5 times.
This is going to lead to the construction of a lot of plants, in this case, auto plants. And you're going to see numbers like you haven't seen, both in terms of employment. It takes a little while. You're going to have great construction numbers initially, and then you're going to have a lot of people making a lot of cars.
The best way to think about this and really dumbing it down, making it real simple is these tariff schedules in Canada, Mexico, and now 13 other countries. We've got a list of 15 coming out next week, 15 countries. What Trump is trying to do is examine all of these, and some of them were put in place right after the Second World War. So there's a lot of imbalance. If you look at aggregate of tariffs in the United States on inbound, they're much less than what countries are charging on outbound into their countries of American goods. So he's just saying, let's go reciprocal. Why don't you drop yours to zero, and I'll talk to Trump about dropping his to zero, and we'll both have zero, and we'll combine the economies. Now that makes sense. I think this is one giant negotiation train, and they'll fly down to Washington right away and start the negotiations. Where they go, in my view, is a positive thing, because these tariffs do a tremendous amount of damage on both sides of the border. 17 states, their #1 trading partner is Canada, and 75% of output of Canada is purchased by the United States. So there's no way. This is a marriage, and we're having a little tiff right now. A little, difficult time in a long 100-year marriage. That's exactly what it is.
I think the risk-reward proposition for Bitcoin is better than any other time in the history. Is it too late? Well, can you actually take all of your property, put it in your pocket, and leave the country on one-day notice if you need to? If not, then you're probably not too late. Bitcoin represents digital property. What's the value of digital property? Hundreds of trillions of dollars. Is it overvalued? Not yet. It's $1 trillion right now. So when it's 100 times more valuable than it is right now, will it be overvalued? Not likely. It's probably still going to be appreciating faster than every other thing you can buy. Why? Because it's better than every other thing you can buy. Show me a hotel you can put in your pocket and teleport, right? $1 billion of gold is like 3,000 pounds, right? How are you going to move that? Because you have institutional adoption, you have regulatory clarity, you see capital coming into the space, and yet still you can do the survey yourself. Ask 100 of your friends if they're fully invested in Bitcoin and if they understand it. And if 95 say no, right, I would say do your own research. But Bitcoin's 15 years old, so let's look at other great investments. 15 years after Manhattan was founded, was it a good investment? We could just start from 200 years after Manhattan was founded. In 1776, roll the clock forward, 1791. Was it a good investment? Was real estate in Manhattan in 1791 a good investment? Was it a good investment in 1865 after the Civil War? Was it a good investment in 1970? Was it a good investment 15 years afterwards in 1995? Was it a good investment in London 20 years ago? 2,000 years after the Romans showed up in London, was it a good investment to buy London property? Right? I mean, these are scarce, desirable properties. 15 years late is not late. The difference between the winners and the losers is the winners buy something valuable and the losers are afraid. The losers are afraid to buy the valuable thing because it's too expensive. New York real estate was the most expensive real estate in the United States 300 years late. It's always been the most expensive. Apple Computer was founded, I think, 1976, around then. 15 years after Apple Computer was founded, was it a good investment, right? Check the price of Apple stock in 1993 or 1996. I think in 1998, Michael Dell told the board they should shut it down, give the money back to the shareholders. But the truth is, at many, many points in time, it was a good investment. I think, as I'd said, the real key is to understand what is Bitcoin's use case. It's digital capital. Well, how big is that? $400 trillion? How much capital is locked up in real estate, equity, currency, bonds, collectibles, trophy assets, precious metals, right? There's probably half the value of most residential real estate is the monetary premium. It's the capital. How do you know this? I give you a little test. Go to Miami Beach, go up and down the beach, and then count the number of lights on in a condo building on the beach. Or go to Monaco and count the number of lights on. And what you'll find is that 80 to 90% of all of the condos don't have lights on at night. So people have huge amounts of capital tied up in these idle assets. And there's a lot of reasons for them, but one reason is because they feel like their money is safer there. So in the 20th century, people basically bought sports teams. Ask yourself, what do rich people own when they get rich? They bought sports teams, they bought real estate, they bought companies, they bought land, they bought timber rights, they bought oil rights, they bought gold, they bought bonds, they just bought stuff. Why? Because they knew if they left their money in the bank, it was going to dwindle away. Buy anything. They buy Picassos, they buy art, they buy stuff. So there was never a perfect digital capital. There was never a digital instrument where I could, if you were a rich Russian and you had a choice between buying a bunch of real estate in Moscow or buying Bitcoin, with ex post facto hindsight, looking back for the last 30 years, okay, now let's play that out and you're a rich Nigerian. Now you're a rich Turk. Now you're rich in Lebanon. And we don't have to be rich. Anybody with any amount of money anywhere in the world, You've got the last 100 years of history. You live in Germany in 1930. What do you want, a building or Bitcoin? You live in Argentina. What do you want? You want to own land? You want to own a building? You want a company? You want Bitcoin? The currency is going to collapse 5 times in 140 years. 5 times. Okay, so this is why we want to study history. If you study history, you're going to find that the currency collapsed thousands of times. In fact, on average, it collapses everywhere. Probably, it collapses everywhere on average every 50 years in the history of the world. And that's maybe me being charitable. So, is it too late? Well, can you actually take all of your property, put it in your pocket, and leave the country on one day notice if you need to? If not, then you're probably not too late.